That's not too much, sorry. Semen break. Okwanyiku. If you, Osempu Korea Manfo. If you.
Please, Ejakonimos and Esakofuba, band, a round of applause for them, providing the creative juices for us to appreciate and digest this well thought and insightful keynote by Mr. Ivo Ajimanduya, Director at the Menchia Palace Museum. Please, a round of applause for him. What we want to do now, Your Majesty, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, is to gain two insights. The first will be the event leading to the exile, and the second will be the king in exile. These two insights will last together no more than 20 minutes. Speakers, please take note. I shall now invite this first speaker on events leading to the exile, the first trained social historian of medicine from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Kumasi. Make welcome Professor Samuel Edujemfie.
His Royal Majesty Otumfour Centenary, and also to the second, Her Royal Highness Lady Julia Nananom, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I stand on the existing protocol to proceed. A quick one, as we look at the presentation of Ivo, we are led to a very interesting narrative that tells who we have become as a people in this great Asante Kingdom. However, in 1896, the story was very different. In fact, from between 1894 to 1896, there was an attempted coup on Prempeh I on the pretext that Asante had not kept the clauses concerning the indemnity that came from the Formula Treaty. But more so, there were other diplomatic overtures to ensure that there would be peace, because Asante did not only go to war, but Asante believed in diplomacy. And so whilst Asante kept to diplomatic overtures, in their minds they believed that the British would do same. In fact, when you look at what orchestrated the 1896 occurrence, we need to reflect on what had taken place in the 1880s, because there was a grand European conference that is popularly known as the Berlin Conference. In that conference, 2 or 3 major important themes came up. The first one was effective occupation, and the second concerned the sphere of influence. British and other European engagements in Africa, for that matter, was that which aimed at exploiting the territory of Africa and to make good of her resources which nature had given to them. But it was not an equal relationship at all, because you see that in the case of the Gold Coast, the British had subtly and openly taken over the entire region, or the colony as it is referred to in the literature, except for the forest region of Asante. And so if the British would allow Asante to subsist as an independent kingdom, and for that matter an empire, it would, if you like, truncate its adventure. So several things were taking place at the time. There was competition between them. France, Germany, and other holdings and interests in Africa was ongoing. And for that matter, the British had to hold to their own, not only at the colony, but also to further advance to take over the entirety of Asante, to ensure that they govern sane and benefit from its resources. Fundamentally, if you look at the 1800s, you would understand that Asante had had a lot of encounters with the British, taking off from 1824 when McCarthy dared Asante power and he was decapitated. And more so, you will see that such encounters, which Ivor has spoken to in many ways, ended up with the Yasantua War. But the fundamental ethos of it is that Asante had great leaders and great kings who were warriors and who did not believe in colonization. And for that matter, such resistance persisted from 1824 up to 1896 when Prempeh was taken to Sierra Leone and afterwards to Seychelles. But the question is that when you look at the 1880 conference and the event at Berlin, you would understand that a lot of things were happening. And today, Africa is still being insulted by the West. And I dare to establish a point with that, and maybe I shall know because of time. You realize that when they showed interest in sharing the lands in Africa, Africa was not represented in that conference. I will refer to them as the G14, as you have today, the G7. And these were the people: Germany, France, Great Britain, United States, Russia, among others. These were people who shared Africa on a piece of paper, but they had to effectively occupy Asante. The challenge at this time was that Asante had gone through many phases of difficulties and challenges. Kofi Kakari's challenge, and also the misrule which had occurred for a very long time. So look at Congo. King Leopold of Belgium wanted Congo. Belgium today has 11 million people. King Leopold of Belgium at the time wanted Congo, the heart of Africa's resources, and it was given to him on a silver platter. And that is what the African leaders, the African chiefs, who were democratically elected in their own enclaves, did not want that to happen. Exiling such leaders who were resisting colonization was a stock in their trade, and it is today a stock in their trade, because they intend to show all political actors and developmental agents who want to develop their people. And we saw that in Patrice Emerson Lumumba's assassination. And we saw that in other great leaders in Africa who were taken away even in the 20th century. You are either exiled or you are killed. Before 1896, you would recall that King Agri of Cape Coast in 1867 had been sent to Sierra Leone. And he returned a sick man who denounced his own rulership and more so was put under stipend. It was an European agenda, a grand one which was undertaken. And that would go beyond diplomacy, because they wanted to absolutely take over the territory of Africa and more so take over the territories of the Gold Coast, including Asante. The invasion had immediate and long-lasting consequences. The exile of Prempeh I disrupted traditional Asante political structures and facilitated the implementation of direct British administration. As Kimball knows, this transformation fundamentally altered the political landscape of the Gold Coast region. The economic consequences were equally significant. British control led to the reorganization of trade patterns and resource exploitation to benefit colonial interests. In fact, in 1998, when Dammit was writing, he said the post-invasion period was to increase or saw British investment in gold mining, agricultural production, with profits primarily benefiting colonial interests rather than local communities. The Asante engaged in extensive trade networks that facilitated the exchange of valuable commodities such as gold, ivory, and later rubber. This trade underpinned their military expansion and allowed them to wield considerable influence in regional politics. And that was exactly what the British wanted to truncate, among other things. The empire's interactions with colonial powers, notably during the Anglo-Asante Wars, exemplified the tensions that arose from competing economic interests. These conflicts ultimately led to British control over Asante territories, yet the empire managed to retain its cultural identity and governance structures even under colonial rule. However, from the 1800s, Asante military and diplomatic encounters with the British were aimed at demonstrating their determination of resisting subjugation and assert their autonomy amidst the pressure of European imperialism in the Gold Coast. The 1896 British invasion of Asante and the exile of Prempeh I represented the convergence of economic imperialism, political ambition, and strategic colonial interests. The event exemplifies how European colonial powers used military force to achieve economic and political objectives, often under the guise of establishing protection or civilization with racial undertones. The consequences of this invasion continue to influence Ghana's political and economic landscape today. This exilic episode marked the depletion, or better still, the ending of a century of intense diplomatic activity between Asante and its neighbors, including African and European nations, which had helped to develop and standardize practices related to diplomatic appointments, representations, conduct, and strategies in Asante native diplomatic practice. More so, Nana Prempeh's failure to put up any military resistance has been said, or against the British in 1896, has led to notions of surrendering his nation. The 28-year-long duration of his exile has also raised questions that the Asante may have been quite content to live in exile. In addition, he has been accused rather posthumously of collaborating with the British upon his repatriation to allow colonialism in Asante. Such naysayers have overlooked the fact that Asante at the time believed in diplomacy and also believed that the British would conduct themselves in like manner. Certainly, King Prempeh could not mortgage the future of Asante that has seen many wars, including the sack of Kumasi in 1874 and the internal unrest which had lasted for several years. The new military technology or hardware of the British was well known at the time. Asante had to live to fight another day. As you can see, the Union is well and alive today with its many opportunities, challenges, planned progress, and fortuitousness. Thank you very much. I rest my case.
I cannot keep up. Professor Samuel Edujemfi, thank you for that very passionate presentation of the event leading to exile. Such fervor and militancy, like a freedom fighter. But let me give you some water. And so our next presentation is on the King in Exile. That will be soft, because it will be done by a director of Creole Language and Culture Research Institute, the University of Seychelles. I give you Dr. Penda Chopper.
I wish to greet the King of Ashanti and the President, the First Ladies, and everybody. Can we have the slide, please, the projection? Okay, here we go. It is a great honor for me to be present here in Kumasi today on this most auspicious occasion at the commemoration of the 100th anniversary of the return of King Prempeh I to the place of his birth and the seat of the golden stool over which he reigned as the Asantehene before and after his exile, as I shall set out to prove in this presentation. I wish to express my sincere gratitude to my friend and mentor, Jean-Claude Pascal Mahoul, who availed me of this opportunity and who pointed me to the right sources and guided my approach to the problematic of King Prempeh's sojourn in Seychelles. I also take this opportunity to thank Dr. Ivor Ajiman Dua, who has been so diligent in ensuring our presence in Kumasi for this occasion. I'm very honored to have traveled in the company of Seychelles resident branch of the Prempeh royal family, the Prempeh Marimbas, hailing from my own district of Anse-Étoile. I would like to point out that I've restricted my presentation to King Prempeh's sojourn in Seychelles and the impact it has had on Seychelles history and society, which is why I have called it Lasting Legacies. King Prempeh I arrived in Seychelles on 11th September in 1900. He was accompanied by 14 chiefs, 13 women, 13 children, 12 attendants, a total of 53 people. In 1901, the Queen Mother, Ya Asantewa, joined the king in exile. With her came another 15 chiefs, 2 women, 4 attendants, and this made a total of 75 of the Asante people who were exiled to Seychelles. Without intending to, the king's captors had made it possible for him to maintain his status as a king among his own people by availing him of his council of chiefs, and in that respect, he made good use of that opportunity, on which I will proceed to elaborate later. Okay. So let's look a little bit at the background, what Seychelles was like in 1900 when the King Prempeh arrived. The archipelago was still governed by the British Colonial Office as a dependency of Mauritius. The population was approximately 19,000 inhabitants. Seychelles society at that time could be described as a typical colonial plantation society, which had been founded on slavery. A very small minority of French colonial descendants owned most of the land, while a majority of the population, consisting mainly of slave descendants, including the progenies of abusive relationships between plantation masters and African slave women, worked on coconut or vanilla plantations. I'm sure all of you know this story. The British presence was felt mainly in the administrative positions, but it was nevertheless a position of power. This was a time when slave trafficking in the Indian Ocean region was still fresh in people's memories, and indeed, some recent scattered islands might still have been, especially amongst Seychelles scattered island, illegal slave trafficking could still have been going on. There is some evidence in that direction. So in this environment, compounded by the presence of a fresh stock of African ethnic groups among the population who had been liberated by British anti-slavery activities in the Indian Ocean, King Prempeh's reception by the community could have been very different than what it turned out to be had it not been for his personality. So I want to look now a little bit at the political conditions. When the Secretary of State for the Colonies, Joseph Chamberlain, inquired in July 1900 if arrangements could be made for the detention of the Asante Hine and his retinue in Seychelles, the newly appointed administrator of Seychelles, Ernest Beacom Sweetescott, accepted it as an integral part of his colonial responsibilities, in the same manner that his predecessors had accepted the responsibility of the Sultan of Perak's exile between 1877 and 1895. As for the treatment of the king and his retinue, once they got there, it seems that though in theory the Asante Hine was stripped of his status, and indeed he was officially referred to as ex-King Prempeh I, he was in fact treated with every respect and dignity, and was accepted as the leader of the inmates of what was known as the Ashanti camp. Examples of this are Governor Sweetescott's invitation of the king, his mother, and all his chiefs to the celebration of King Edward VII's 60th birthday on 9th November 1901. And in 1903, he was there with his entourage to celebrate the unveiling of the Victoria Clock Tower in memory of Queen Victoria. So, as you can see, this is a stamp. This is a stamp in honor of King Prempeh, and that was in 1965. So that tells you that he was revered. People had respected him and had a good memory of him. Okay, so King Prempeh, once he had settled down, he was a very practical leader. He set to organizing the day-to-day running of the Ashanti's place of exile to ensure a sustainable and harmonious environment for the small group immediately in his care. And he noticed that the grounds of the place assigned to them were very fertile. So he set about establishing a farm to produce foods such as plantain, potatoes, maize, cassava, etc. And the whites were especially engaged in the rearing of pigs and hens, both for consumption and for sale in the community, which of course afforded an opportunity to mix with the local population and exchange with them. Most significant in this venture is the fact that King Prempeh attempted to earn a more stable income for his people by seeking to establish a vanilla plantation, which was a common cash crop in Seychelles at the time. So he didn't just sit back and rely on his allowance. He tried to become self-sufficient, or at least to become more self-sufficient and not too dependent. The colony experienced food shortage during the First World War, but in the Ashanti camp, their crops ensured that they did not lack nourishment. So I want to talk a bit about education now. One of the king's most notable accomplishments during his exile was that he attained an education in the culture of his oppressors and ensured that his children and the children of his entourage did too. So having started to read and write with his Fonte interpreter, Timothy Corsa, King Prempeh was soon writing to the principal of Victoria School in Seychelles to assist him with books and copybooks to pursue his learning further. And did he write? We've just been told. According to Seychellois historian Tony Mathiot, King Prempeh was often seen at Carnegie Library in around 1910 or so, borrowing books. The king also arranged for a school to be built in the Ashanti camp for the smaller children and for the older children to go to school in Victoria. Records have been kept in the archives of the letters he sent to petition the government on the rising cost of school fees for his sons, and other letters, mainly petitioning to be repatriated. So King Prempeh I put the education acquired by himself and his sons to good use, the most amazing example of which is his compilation with his son Frederick of the work entitled The History of Ashanti Kings and the Whole Country Itself. So this is nothing short of visionary, and definitely the action of a king with foresight and progressiveness. His valorization of his country's culture is further illustrated by his desire to have someone teach him to read and write the Ashanti language. And the photo on the left is precisely that. is the letter, a written letter where they refuse to allow him to have someone to teach him in his language, the language of the Ashanti. The king also saw the necessity of learning the Creole language in order to smooth relations between his entourage and the local people, to learn from them and to exchange with them. So, one of the most intriguing legacies of King Prempeh's exile in Seychelles is the traditional Asante pharmaceutical knowledge shared with the local people. There are stories of the local people seeking medical advice and cures from the Ashanti camp, something which was facilitated by the women of the camp. Most interesting is the legacy of Seychelles' most renowned herbalist, whose fame is said to have spread throughout the Western Indian Ocean, Mr. Charles Zialor of Answayal district. He was said to have gained his knowledge from the Asante traditional doctors. There are even allegations of a book of Asante pharmaceutical knowledge having been in the possession of Zialor. Since it is already known that King Prempeh was intent on committing Asante traditions, history, and practices to paper, it wouldn't be impossible for such a book to have been compiled by members of his retinue. And certainly, it is a fact that two of his chosen followers in exile were traditional Ashanti court physicians, not witch doctors, physicians, namely Kwaku Afre and Kwame Yeboah. So, according to historian A. Adu Boahen, King Prempeh's eagerness to convert to the Christian religion was second only to his concern over education. King Prempeh must be playing with it. Now it's all over the place. Okay. Okay, I think we are back on track. Okay, so I'd like okay, let me finish about a religion. While the king did not outrightly impose Christianity on his followers, I'm not touching it, he's doing that on his own. While he did not outrightly impose Christianity on his followers, he did encourage them to convert, and they were soon receiving religious instructions from the Church Missionary Society, the continuity of which the king tried to insist on in spite of limited resources. So it was also a form of his education. On 29th May, the Queen Mother and King Prempeh and some of the other inmates were baptized in the Anglican Church of Victoria. And the king's vision in this respect was crowned, as we have just been told, by his son John's successful entry in the Anglican clergy after a period of study in Mauritius. It seems that this legacy was carried on in Ghana, where after the king's repatriation, most of his people also converted. Okay, so now, for the most important part of this presentation, lasting legacies. There can be no ties stronger than genetics between families and people, so we know that. And King Prempeh I has left behind such a legacy in both Ghana and Seychelles, a fact that is illustrated by the reunion of family members from both sides of the continent on the occasion of the 100th anniversary of his repatriation. The king's memory of the archipelago and his sojourn there, as well as the Seychellois people's memories of him, has resulted in the strengthening of diplomatic ties between Seychelles and Ghana, and most importantly, between the Seychellois and the Ashanti. This is symbolized by the presence of the President of Seychelles and his delegation at the invitation of the Ghanaian government and the present at Asantehene, Otumfour, Nana Osei Tutu II. The bonds between our two countries are cemented not only by our historical ties and memories of friendship and respect between both parties, but also by the fact that members of King Prempeh's entourage, including his sons, married Seychellois women, thus linking the bloodlines of these two nations. So Ghana and Seychelles, we can never fight because we are family. Examples of these genetic bonds directly linked to King Prempeh I himself through his son, James Boaki Prempeh the Prempeh Marimba family, through Mary Prempeh Marimba, daughter of Princess Susie Marie Prempeh. And as you can see, the family grows, which is a good sign for the Prempeh descendants in Seychelles. And Princess Iken Prempeh. These are only two examples. I know there are many more. James Boaki Prempeh's eldest daughter, Princess Iget, who had several children, one of whom, Molly Prempeh, made a visit to Seychelles in 2015, where she was given a warm welcome by her Seychellois relatives, as well as the general public, especially after she displayed the ability to speak Creole, even if she had left Seychelles as a young child. As she saw the name Princess Prempeh held by somebody at the jetty, Victoria, she called out, "La Mola!" which means, "Here I am," in Creole. So she never forgot. So there's Molly and members of her relatives in Seychelles. So in conclusion, a remarkable aspect of Seychelles' history is that its insularity made of it a perfect prison without bars for the British Empire's exile of kings, sultans, and other types of leader figures who stood in the way of their imperial designs. It must be said that among all the royal exiles who came to Seychelles, King Prempeh I left the most lasting impression and legacy. I would like to end by pointing out that though he was deposed by the British and was forced to refer to himself as the ex-king, he remained throughout his exile the Asantehene. As is pointed out by Joseph K. Ajayi, in all his actions, he acted as a king. His deposition resulted from his decision to negotiate peace with the British colonial powers in a civilized and honorable manner, even to the extent that he refused to endanger his people by taking up arms when he was outnumbered in men and arms. Once deposed, he set about adapting to the situation, mainly through education and conversion, all with the aim of building his people's resilience for a more long-term survival in a world where he readily recognized the fact that his proud nation of warriors no longer had the upper hand. Symbolic of the fact that the Ashanti never complied with the British deposition of the Asantehene is Frederick Prempeh's reference to him as King of Ashanti in a letter to his father dated 1911 when he was still a detainee. The Asantehene's royal welcome both upon his disembarkation at the port and his arrival in Kumasi in 1924, are testimonies to the resilience and survival of the Ashanti's identity and culture. I thank you.
We're grateful to you, Dr. Penda Chopper, Director of Creole Language and Culture Research Institute, University of Seychelles, for giving us that good appreciation of our king in exile. It now falls to the UNESCO representative to Ghana, Mr. Edmond Mukala Nguemo, to share his thoughts with us.
Otumfour Osei to Centenary, the Princess Concord of Asante Man, Lady Julia Osei Tutu, President of the Republic of Seychelles, His Excellency Wavel Ram Kalawan, First Lady of the Republic of Seychelles, His Excellency Linda Ramka Lawan, the second President of the Fourth Republic of Ghana, His Excellency John Kuffour, Nananom, distinguished speakers, distinguished guests here present. It is quite very challenging to take the floor after these eminent experts who have spoken, and in particular, living this extraordinary historical moment that we are all witnessing today, and representing the United Nations institution here present. I'm really humbled, really, to take the floor and not to acknowledge that as I see the President of Seychelles here, we are actually celebrating also the hospitality, though in hardship, in hard times, of Seychelles, in enabling us today. If we are enjoying what we are witnessing today, it is also thanks to that hospitality and the deliberate effort done by the Kingdom of the Republic of Seychelles. And which brings me really to the realization, as our last speaker really highlighted, that we are celebrating the Ashanti Kingdom has also extension places, and in particular the Republic of Seychelles, which today I have learned a very powerful truth, which one has to be now careful that it is not just in Ghana, but when you go to Seychelles, you will also find Ghana. So the first element that I've learned through this intervention is really that extended and the hospitality, and also the element that we are celebrating, which is part of the African culture. So at this momentous day, marking the centenary return of Asante Heni Otumfour Prempeh I from exile in the Seychelles, UNESCO extends its heartfelt congratulations to the people of Asante Heni and Ghana. This historic event is not only a significant milestone in the cultural heritage of the Asante Kingdom, but also a poignant reminder of its people's resilience and enduring spirit. As one of our experts clearly said, that the glory or the greatness of a kingdom reside in the duty to remember. And as we have been witnessed and looked into the past interventions looking into that very rich and painful memory, but also demonstrating the strength, the resilience, as well as the effort to look into the future. One cannot but just remember that the greatness of the kingdom of Ashanti also resides in its effort in rebuilding, in revitalizing its culture. And I think that's all being done in the investment of His Majesty, Royal Majesty Centenary Otumfour Tutu, for all the work that he has been accomplishing in the last 25 years. What we have witnessed, what we have celebrated, I had the privilege of traveling with him and also with His Excellency the President. We were part of the British Museum with all the British experts. While we were talking about the restitution of cultural relics and cultural objects that were taken abroad in many parts of the world. And you know that Africa is still struggling to restitute most of its relics. His Majesty brilliantly, in a very powerful but very futuristic vision approach, he highlighted, and I said future approach because even within the UN system we have been debating how to restitute, how to bring back. He puts on the table a solution where all civilizations, where African relics has been taken, will come into Kumasi and will celebrate the ingenuity, the creativeness, the priceless value of those cultural heritage. Because you and I, we know the reason why they are kept into the museum is because they are priceless. The reason why we want it back, because they are priceless. The reason why we need to transmit them to a future generation, because they are priceless. But having the brilliant idea of bringing the children of the world, both young and old, to sit on the same table and to celebrate the African ingenuity and creativeness, you know, that did not really cross anyone's mind but except His Majesty. And I want to really applaud that legacy. We are talking about the legacy of revitalization of cultural heritage transmission to future generation. It is also in that very same line, as we saw very clearly when he visited the Seychelles. He said, we can mourn about the painful chapter of the past, and we know it very clearly that even out of the desert, in the scorching sun of the desert, even beautiful flowers also springs out. It is the same. Yes, it has been a very painful chapter, and we have the duty to remember. But at the same time also, we have the responsibility to build a future of peace and development. And that's exactly what he is saying. He's looking forward into building, in bringing, and forging really different bridges. So those legacies that we just really see from his various interventions brought us with the Museum to work already on one proposal, which is to create a prize, an award prize for young creative artists who will convert both. He's stressing me. I try hard not to read the speech because it's so long, so I just tried really to summarize. So we're working, Your Majesty, we're going to work on the prize to enable young Ghanaian artists both in Ghana and also abroad in seeing how they are going to scale up, learn from their elders, how those jewelry, those cultural objects were crafted, the techniques. We want to make sure that it is transmitted to the younger generation. That's point number one. Point number two, we want to make sure that there is an award that is also given to these young ones, and that's one of the work that we are doing already with Ivo and all of his team, and we're hoping, God willing, that by May 2025, we will be able to come with some good news to ensure that that prize award will bear your name. But it's not just bearing your name, it's the legacy that your name carries that we want really to ensure that it is really highlighted. So without taking too much time, I just want to say that, all that we have listened is talking about the legacy of what His King Majesty really have done, both from the time that he has really taken his reign and how he's really driving the revitalization of the Ashanti Kingdom culture heritage, not only for the Ghanaian, but for the rest of the world. And I thank you.
One more time, a round of applause. Mr. Edmond Nkala Kwemo, the UNESCO representative to Ghana. Thank you for those warm thoughts. You are indeed a wonderful gift to this occasion. And now, Your Majesty, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, prepare for a breathtaking experience as I give to you the Center for National Culture, Kumasi, and the interpretation of our King, Nana Ajiman Prempeh the First.
Prempeh the First, the 13th king of the Asante Empire. A reign marked by a riveting saga of turmoil, conflict, heart-wrenching tragedy, and heroism. This fearless leader who ruled from the 26th of March 1888 until his death in 1931, faced countless challenges from the onset. Prempeh's ascension to the throne was marked by a brutal civil war, which left deep scars and divided loyalties among the Asantes. The states of Mampong, Kuffour, Nsuta, Adamsi, and Dadiase refused to recognize his authority, while Kumasi, Pekwai, Jabe, Eduso, Offenso, and Nkoranza stood by him. And yet, as he navigated these treacherous lands, Prempeh faced an even greater threat: the British Empire's relentless pursuit of control over the Ashanti Kingdom. With his unwavering dedication to preserving Ashanti sovereignty, Nana Ajuman Prempeh resisted British deals and sweetheart proposals, sparking a maelstrom of conflict and intrigue. With a heart full of peace, he defended his people against the British. And yet the British, determined to destroy Ashanti sovereignty, sowed discord among the people, turning brother against brother and chief against chief. And yet, Nana Ajuman Prempeh remained resolute, willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of his kingdom. The British exiled him to the Seychelles in 1896 for his defiance. But even in the darkest depths of despair, Prempeh's legacy endured, inspiring generations to come. Join me on this captivating journey into the heart of Ashanti history as we unravel the complex tale of Nana Ajuman Prempeh I, a monarch who embodied the very essence of courage, wisdom, diplomacy, and sacrifice.
Every Otumfour was said to see a mechanic guidance. And then the young people will come for. And I said, Tina, come my before. No, soon she's a Johnson. Now, see, there's no better one. But for when we are to send to the Yasis, let's engage that. And go on, and make one. Hey, now about you. Sit here. One more sweaty. Who can support a theatre? What's the commandment? From the commandment. Now, I'm not in the Swedish cat. The other ones are with you. I don't want now. Also, what happens here? I'm the one. It is surrounding.
Tientu Nananom mam seven mapa.
Nananom said of him, so my papa.
Você me dá one mas sabe bia me tu sabe one was here.
Nananom you so damasi. Sabe bia o tu sabe one. What was here?
Você me friend one man na ye grata for me sake from brad montina me say one brother.
I'm so friend one. Na ye grata for ne sake free amna enti no friend.
Nananom sem dada na brad was the bia.
You will see some dada and I'm not beside you.
They can send my mama before me give them my sentiment.
Open source, they I'm not to say, oh, my pine, young before we did that. I will say, me, my pine, never seen him better than my say. I feel so, you are Sama pine, my I'm not to never see me as I met him. They may have my friend and me dead. I feel so, open so in your
and I myself for Brad was at the other count says, it's enough this to get near this video, obituary and
I feel open so say, young man, Sadia Page, he said, so what year this summer when Yaman, no this year, and you good year, now prepare, good Janica, what Yaman.
I said, 10 months, 4 years, you're about to my dear so what the actual what I said.
You are saying, I'm not saying. Say, you went here, then said, no, they man, that's when you stood here, and you're about to do not prepare years old. Now, what the actual one, and the same person.
And I know the frame of the way they said for brothers.
And I know you must go from one. Now, when he said for I'm not beside you. And I know, Madame said you're in source here. Madame, and I know what's up.
Too much Gabi, you know. And now someone was for father. I am for some when you mean answer. Yes, and my Chevy. I'm saying I didn't trust Campa one. Then I'm your way. What a way! What a back on one. And that's what to say. Massa, says you would have a Bobia Minifee.
I just go your friend.
I'm running Casa.
What's it? And 7 o'clock. I'm running the Troy. They say, now, I'm what says. I did hear only see any money. When I go up on my Mira, Madame, let your woman say, the better in the home. I feel so. I feel to see you. And the didn't go down the friend of Zeno at the apple. Then some was when you were happy. Then pay away who were happy. As I see it, you get some people. Or from a farmer.
No. Official could look to know. But you see, someone has said what I was so sad. I was to call your dad. So when you are, just someone else who you know, say, what is the man here? Which I know he did. Yeah, was what water, no try and help me. He said, I know your sense of the ceremony. Then you have a a Japati, I am which I pray the poor man. And then what did it tell? That is the other.
And too much now. I say me, a big car Canada. And Papa Mama, Ama Mampo, Kuffour, that you say, near dancing, I could think at your mother. And I'm going to say, I say, somewhere here. Many is a frappuccino by, and I'm a woman who approached it. Uncle Hunemaye. Let's walk back on my baby on the baby. Yes, to some way, I'm saying,
who said, you should get more brain of Papa. Who said, some people to say, who is happening.
Now, just hear what Dama said, and I practice it. Was to say, somebody you put up between you.
For sure, whatever. You're quiet. You will say, when the mom now will try to crack and really I say, what to say? Or what to do? What to do?
Wayama said, Nananom, say,
Amrado above for the corner, so Castle on the Kaiser, on I am above for the farmer.
And now, Madame, I said, you
Madam, you can't tell between myself. Your son to me, obey him and your money. See the medical of Antonia, no, now, Madame said in an answer.
Actually, Nananom say, what the Kadaya and to Peso Ballet, as you also say.
Nananom said, now, Papa said, I see a feel so, you put a person with the wall. Yamayuma, and also a dead and also Sandy and Cancer.
Madam, I can catch and say, the vegetable, you know, India, or India, and in the Argent crop, Emma. When you get a time of a 30 years, you have to know it's the massive. Not for faith, for be about that drinking again the best answer. What the bread, ever pays, the Palestine, because it's your master. Yeah, no, yeah. What you go from a bus again, that is from the time.
Now, Madame said, and I said,
Actually, Tiamen Nananom semi da volumas papa.
Nananom, now purpose of the master.
Said ye Nananom come Amrado and penny for one more dinner one cassa ye.
Said an purpose, was Amrado, Nananom, or what you want cassa ye. Now, so
myself on fire.
You are seeing Tracy and my answer as some fire.
Tiamen campus.
See a Tiamen campus. Yes,
personal church and with detention of personal battle shots.
Now, so I was going to church and Osiso atiasi eliye, onina santumai, omumba mkwasha sikoko, emrasi da biada.
Na munyemi hu.
Yewasi munyemi hu.
Achame mesi munyemi hu.
Yewasi munyemi hu.
Misro di pansa radio.
Yewasi di pansa radio.
Misro si bodu ne mama.
Yewasi bodu mama.
Misro be ye ne misro boja.
Yewasi boja, me no boja ye. Your pioneers.
Medias, Santuma, Santuma,
you will see already as you one or Damas, Senegal,
because you get to run and see a bed as it was something, but to self rather short.
You are passing getting a prayer and I don't see a phone or to the Safran, so often a new project.
Actually, said, yeah, can be a bit trouble from another approaching one who says something. Mamma said, as we know that Papa was who says, I'm going to be a Yamunia one way.
Nananom said, I'm representing. What's the other trouble for? I'm walking with train now. What commission? So, no, man, not the pine. So, put yours out there in Famraya. A train, your just here to.
So, Cassa, you will know I am a for net to full one session as a Tiama bread and Yaman.
You can say, oh, no, the man, not the fire. Come on, for that to go. What channel? Asante, I'm a brand new money. That's it.
Make that your name.
Catch a course.
May say, catch your head.
Catch a course. You're a madam.
Actually, what you Papa would do in gentlemen. Was it on through a drive for the set down and son? And son,
sure.
I'm what sure. Well, Kuffour,
sure.
Well, Kuffour,
sure.
my Benab Bonam,
sure.
Japan, Japan,
Zio,
and I feel good.
Zio,
Nananom,
Zio.
abɔfoɔ ne nipa ne tu hɔ no ama wakosi anaa waburukyire.
Zio. Nananom, sɛdeɛ n'apranka seɛ no, ɔsɛ saa abɔfoɔ yi a yɛato wɔn din ɛne abɔfoɔ a wɔtu wɔn ama wɔkɔ aburokyire nyinaa.
Na mmom nananom nka hu sɛ yɛnkɔteɛ no ɛnoane a.
Nananom, n'apranka sɛ wɔnka hu sɛ yɛnkɔteɛ dom a ɛnoane a.
Besiane nti obiara tete toɔ ma ne ma wo.
Besiane nti obiara tete toɔ ɛma ne ma no.
Akyea me nyɛ toɔ nketenkete.
Ewurase nyɛ toɔ nketenkete.
Akyea me nyɛ toɔ nketenkete.
Ewurase nyɛ toɔ nketenkete.
Na mmom ɛtoɔ akɛseɛ.
Ewurase toɔ akɛseɛ.
Akyea me sɛ ɛtoɔ akɛseɛ.
Ewurase toɔ akɛseɛ.
Na sika ɛbɛnya afiri saa toɔ mu.
Na sika ɛbɛnya afiri saa toɔ mu.
Yɛde ama abɔfoɔ de akɔ aburokyire.
Yɛde ama abɔfoɔ no kɔm de akɔ aburokyire nyinaa.
Akyea me.
Ɛnyɛ o.
Mumusa bante mama memra mekasa meka toɔ no hu sɛ wɔyeyɛ ne nsa sɛ na nsɛm matuɔ ne gu abasafo sɛ kɛgye sɛ gwagware wɔn no mogya mododo enti ɔmubee adwebɛ na na bɛne tiri mu
watoma sɛdeɛ n'abraka seɛ no wɔ sɛmpa tufɔ kyɛn yɛma no ntie wura sɛ baatema sɛ nka baako a na kam na medi kan nanso yɛankɔyɛ ko na yɛ nanam ne yɛtu ɔmo no akɔsi anan wɔ aburokyima mu ne yɛtete toɔ kama ne kasa de adonwa nananom ɛbɛkɔ ne tena bɔ ne toɔ no tena tena kɛseɛ nti na meka ne sanadaro na abɛbɛ ɔda ama sɛdeɛ batoma seɛ no
ɛneɛ wo se sɛ saa na bantema ka deɛ deɛ mebankɔmmra na ɔbɛkyerɛ ɛda no so
na apɛpɛ se fa da hɔ ɔyɛ adeɛ da sɛ mu ɔkyea yi wura Wobema, na pempe wobemo.
Your Excellency, our former Governor, Sir William Bradford Griffith, is now on retirement. As a result, Her Excellency, Queen Victoria of the British government, has appointed Sir William Maxwell as the new governor of the Gold Coast.
Thank you, gentlemen. It is a pleasure for me to serve with the best elite of scouting, of military tactic and administration. It is an honor, but also a deep responsibility. As you know, the European powers are racing for war. They try to get as much weapons as possible, needing for that to tap into new markets, fueling their industry, being able to secure the different resources. And the world is not for a period of peace. We are preparing for war. We are not nice and gentle anymore. This is the reason why my first task has been given to come here in Cape Coast and to resolve once for all the Ashanti problem.
This should be interesting. The Ashantis are not going to give up without a fight. Your Excellency, in 1891, as the then Governor Benford Graham offered to take Ashanti under British protectorate, came from confidence in his effort to revive and strengthen the Ashanti Empire, declaring the offer by saying, I might say this is a matter of a very serious consideration, and which I'm happy that we have arrived here at this conclusion, that my kingdom of Ashanti will never commit itself to any such policy. Ashanti must remain independent as if all, at the same time being friendly with all white men.
Exactly. That's where the whole problem is. We are in conflict. We are preparing. The Germans are in the Volta region, the French in the Côte d'Ivoire. We, in the international race for power, it is only a question where the flags have been planted and where not. We have received your different reports in London. We have analyzed them deeply. Thank you very much for all your effort. And we have, the administration has arrived to the conclusion that it is not a good idea to do like in 1874, to attack straight away the Ashanti Kingdom. This may request too much of the very more and more precious British blood. This is why the administration has asked me to underline the existing treaty, the Fomena Treaty of 1974. I have already written a letter to Premier One, asking him urgently to follow what the other kings have promised. One, we want to be able to interfere into the activity, so we need to have local British residents in Kumasi to be able to figure out things and act much more instinctively, and also to influence much more the population. Second, we need to have our markets, our goods flow to the market, destroying the artisanship. Three, we need the local population to hate their own traditions of their fathers to come to our civilized world. Fourth, it has been promised that a lot of gold will be paid. Right now, the empire is expecting some 50,000 ounces of gold. If the Ashantis would pay that, they would have much less aggressivity in our direction. Last but not least, Julius Caesar, 2,000 years ago, explained divide to rule. We have asked in the Fomena Treaty, and they have accepted, that any tribe rebelling against them, asking for our protection, will be left in that positive state for us, and this is not happening.
Your Excellency, as I always said, we have to forcibly send troops to Kumasi to prepare the ground for another war with the Ashantis. When Sir Gardner Wolseley sent troops to conquer them, they became afraid of us. The war made them lose vast territories. We also looted their royal regalia and rich treasures.
As the governor has said, we have to review our strategies against the Ashantis. Inasmuch as we have previously fought and conquered them, anytime some of the founding factions like Nananom, Suta, Kuffour, and attempt to join our government, and then unexpectedly they change their mind.
Yes, I know the king is very politically powerful, but we have to find another solution.
We have to take action.
Exactly.
Your Excellency, I think we have to send soldiers and arrest King Grammy and put him in prison.
Yes, this might be a very good idea.
Your Excellency, you have a visitor.
Yes.
Your Excellency.
Yes.
This is Habitia, an informant from Asante.
Be welcome, Kwame. You are welcome in this place just like yours.
Hey, Abazma. I'm not the same. They can't do that. I'm a Wakaba. Abazma, Duba.
I'm not a catching.
Greeting.
I'm not going to say. Maybe I say, Chairman Akaba. Say, Bow Bess, I said, between my hat. Now, a great deal was Santenary. But the umbrella said, obviously, what you had what you told me. So I'm going to buy.
Your Excellency, Kwame is an honest person. All the information he gives us are very accurate. And he says he came to welcome you and make you aware of everything that is going on in the Ashanti.
This is exactly what we needed.
Yes.
Tell him I have great presents for people like him.
Kwame, it's a man who all the time. I say, and no, it's a baby. Or what I say, good is the more. Okay.
So, as the informant, I would need to know what is the latest development in the Ashanti Kingdom.
Exactly.
As him, we have the desire to bring the Ashanti Kingdom into modernity, knowing the fact that his desires will be quite part of our efforts.
I'm not going to say, I'm not going to Obama will be there. No, about some Nazaba. Come here,
I'm not a graduate. Tina to my back, I got say. Katana, what you're going to do now, is you are not here for I can home. Now, what can I say? As you see it, and I'm not this is wrong. Now, you can't answer what I said before. Say, I'm not to a Bunyan. I don't think, I want to say, I want to work for I would say, when you are home, no one can say, I cannot have the trouble. I am him, as I said, and I want to move. I don't tell me by.
Your Excellency, he says, Nananom has received your letter, but he doubted you. And he and his chiefs started insulting you to the extent that they sent a delegation to go to Victoria, her queen, yes, to verify if she sent you to write that letter. So he came here to inform you.
Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, I'm sorry. I think we have to send our soldiers and arrest these chiefs.
Yes, but first, our position is not yet compromised much. For sure, my reputation, the reputation of my father, my grandfather, all loyal subject of the Queen, are questioned by such an obscure delegation. But who are they? Here there are princes and kings. Over there, they're just well-dressed, anti-Christian, rebellious troops,
Your
rebellious
Excellency,
against the
I
empire.
think it's his King Practice Councillors that have given him that idea. Else, there's no way he would decide to bring such hefty debts upon himself.
Demre, Champion, Ossie, indeed, be there. Otumfour, Otumfour, and not of who why the mountain.
I'm one day, yes, I will. But you're with it, once you are walking. On say, what was all my pine, and my rabbit, and I'm sitting the apple Masia, and I said, or him, I'm sitting on a bumper. But was it, I will tell him, I said, whatever you know, once you will go. Now I hear the trouble. But what to say, but the people will die. On my coming pass, the people I for it here, up on the twat, nobody else about you. I say, one of my data, one you go grab, I don't know so. What would you want to come into the fire?
Oh, yeah,
I will just tell Otumfour that I have increased the present because of his goodwill. Reassure him that it will be his name that will be recalled by Victoria, not the delegation, not those chiefs. Tell him, please follow you to our head officer so that he can give the name of all those sub-chiefs that are trying to interfere in our politics. He is greatly rewarded for this.
Come here. I'm not going to what in the mighty or little. Hey, Tim. The more trip. Our there information. Then I am what is the Kutupa? What is the Kutupa? All the imagine. Hope you bet you won't Yes, Excellency. I'll leave you with. Come here. So that you give me the list.
Great. Gentlemen. Gentlemen, this meeting, who was a bit scary for me, has found quite some interesting information. I think we should be careful not to relieve ourselves of the international stress for our diplomatic situation.
We have to go to the war with our scientists. We keep delaying for too much.
We are going, but we need to stay calm and find the best way possible. With all the different ways that Nicholas Machiavelli has taught in his book, and this is our witness what we are going to do. So please stay alert and think about it. We are going to act.
Madama, Nananom Nananom, SSA. Yamayabra Kaba, Yamoyama tell Yapan Kaba. I felt you. Otumfour my head, so we get now. We're going to see us. Yene Hima, and Samuel Guamra. Yabayana, here. But those affairs are much. Or may it. Nana problem. Brigisi Nana. The sun said, Sadia Nama Poine. What's your so man to buy a sign about watching a supreme. I'm back and can say, what's your man to say? All for what chairman and why man. That's what I said. What's why I tell you something and yes, event. Or 10 piano and so, Obunano, a net, Judah, Madama, don't want Yima, why uncle, and what tell me what I am afraid of you. It's here. Timento. I'm not why is that ahead? What could I tell you? What could be soup you? What could you do with a very affected 20 years old? I'm prepared. One penalty. Yeah. Actually, here. Timento Nananom, Mamsel, Simida, one must accept to suffer what you say. Nananom, such an apple, so the Massy. So told us suffer what you say. One number can know how you share it to a buffer, say, one could see a bad little man or a was at the mass. You're not so back. I am, everyone is here. Then I had you for the group, say in trouble for now we'll go see another. I didn't know,
ɛwɔ Asantema so. Yes, abɔfoɔ no sɛ ɔmo amrado nti ɛsɛ afidi Asantema yɛapene so sɛ ɔbroni aba nam si ne ɔpɛ sɛ ɔde bɛkyerɛ Kumasi ano no afidi ɔbɛtumi de n'aba. Yɛwura sɛ yɛma amrado asete sɛ ɔbroni aba a ɔpɛ sɛ ɔba ɛbɛkyerɛ Kumasi sɛ ne si ɛna emu afei Asantema yɛapene so. Abɔfoɔ no ba bɛka kyerɛ me sɛ amrado sɛ wate nanso twa na etwa sɛ ɔne n'asraafoɔ ba Kumasi. Na amrado sɛ ọbọfọ ni bẹka kyerɛ ni sɛ amuna abɛsɛ asɛm a yɛbɛka kyerɛ no wate na bom twaa na gya sɛ ɔne ne dɔm ɛbɛ Kumasi. Ɛnu ti sɛ nɛ yɛhyia ha no a nɛ yɛ obroni na nam si na ɔde ne bɛtena Kumasi ha no ɛnu ti na yɛhyia. Eti na abɛbɛ sɛ na mu wu datataa a na yɛ obroni ni nam si ni a ɔde ne bɛ Kumasi ɛnu ti ɛni yɛ kɛhyia. Ananom yɛwura mirikisi dan ne nana. Also, my father. I am one man to say, I'm not doing it. About it. Or just make a form, get a home at the Tiemento na nanu mam sem simbo bia manakumento. Nananom na papa simbo bia manakumento. Yedi di asante. Yedi di asante. Yemwani ni pekwe wasa siswa yedi asante yakufo. Yemwani ni pekwe wasa siswa yedi etra akufo. Nananom pesa monti asese wasante ni papa bio dinu premesi keja ni me wasante yedi onye kufo. Yemwa se o monti asese santini papa bio wodi pre. I'm not sick of that. I don't know.
Nananom, Mama. My brother, and then Papa. Let me find you again. Oh, they are charming. They are not for a second. Man from Community. And what young manana. A cheer back with one. We are covered in the house. Now, there's you. I take one break again. Okay, Nananom. Brother, you were saying, come. Say you are not here. Can you also young Kakra? Some for you, and Tim Matson will say, I have a plan.
British, in their anger towards Nana Prempeh for defying them, for resisting them, arrested him, his chiefs and his family, and exiled them all to the Seychelles. In order to do that and take control of the Asante Empire, they painted Asante cultural histories as vile and evil. They painted the cultural practice like human sacrifice as barbaric, and ironically such sacrifices were not unique to Africa. The ancient Britons too sacrificed humans to their gods, Taintates and Tyrannus. By depicting African traditions as vile and evil, they sought to legitimize their control over Asante Empire. But King Prempeh, wise and endearing, resisted the British rule, and for that they were exiled. The story of the British remains a complex web of intrigue, power, and politics. And yet this is the story of one man who stood tall and resisted oppression. This is the story of a king, kind, courageous, and wise. This is the story of Nana Ajiman Prempeh I, the 13th king of the Asante Empire. Thank you.
Your Majesty, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Majesty, if it pleases you at this point, humbly I ask that as many as can, we observe the celebration of those who parted in the Seychelles and could not make it home, for they too have been and continue to be the bearers of the heaviest burden for our freedoms that we enjoy today. This I so pray. And so we shall all rise, and for 100 seconds, we shall not be silent. We shall rise, we shall roar, we shall clap, we shall celebrate and immortalize the memory of all who passed in the Seychelles and could not make it home. Let's just go on for them. To the great Malaysia, to the least who passed in glory in the Seychelles, you rest in glory, your legacy lives on. A resounding round of applause once again. Center for National Culture, Kumasi. Please, a round of applause for them. And this is just a piece of the entire that's been put together to celebrate our king, Nananom Prempeh. Saying thank you on behalf of all the collaborators for today's event. It's my pleasure to invite the chair of the Otumfour Seychelles II Foundation, who is Ohineba Wachi Eje Wahine II, Otumfour's Yahine. Please make him welcome. A round of applause.
Royal Majesty Otumfour Seychelles II, please permit me to express our appreciation for today's event. It is only because of your vision, wisdom, and resourcefulness that we can all experience today's activities. This has been the immense combination of activities that started in February of this year, when we celebrated the 150-year anniversary of the Seychelles War, followed by the Grand Durbar in May. And now we have the 100-year anniversary of the return of King Prempeh, the first from Seychelles. Otumfour, we can't thank you enough for the opportunity that you've given all of us to be part of this year's celebration. It has been a year that we can never forget. And for the Excellency, Your Excellency, President of Seychelles, Weber Ramkalawan, and the First Lady, thank you for taking time to cross the ocean, which our King Prempeh also traveled to come and join us today, and also for the next 2 days. It's been incredible. And for all excellencies, former President John Kuffour, Excellency British High Commissioner, and Nananom, we thank you all for joining us today. It's been unbelievable. What we have witnessed today is one that will go down in the annals of Asante history. We thank the Cultural Performance Group. You were amazing, just like you were in February. We hope to see the final and the full version of what you have displayed to us today. And for the eloquent speakers, Professor Chopa from Seychelles, Ivat Medua, the eminent speaker, Professor Edujemfi, the man with the vim. We really thank you all for your deliverance of these amazing speeches and presentations. The multimedia group behind us, thank you very much. Olivo Ensemble, really want to thank you for this expression of Asante culture in music and dance. And for the cultural group that gave us this performance, we thank you immensely. But before I finish, I also want to express a great appreciation to the Silver Jubilee Planning Committee, led by our able Nana Chair, Otumfour II. And we thank you very much for leading us through the year from the beginning to now. The Silver Jubilee Planning Committee has been working in the background of all of this, made up of Berima Sabu Chubu Akudia, and Nana Ifa Pentin Pompata, Berima Tiabua Mankwad, Kuntinasi, and Eji Koko Techri, Tobodom, and now Okitechi Amwa Otru, Kuntuichia, Tapikrum, and Eji Kumetifi, Mankohima, Naneja Ben, Afrakuma Kusi Bodum, Ogohima, Jamfua Safubuachi, Ajima Bosu Akwamu, myself, Anibe Yahine, and then Suas Pukwajiman, Tufuachi Amehine, and I could say, Ura Kuntihine, Mr. Kofi Bedu, the Chief of Staff, Mr. NSI Hine, Mr. Charles Sechre, and Apukwajiman, and Dr. Mensa Bosu. These 17 individuals have been in charge of all these organizations ending up today. And we're not done yet. We have tomorrow to go, which will be the Durbar at Bojawi at Mesia. And then finally, the Thanksgiving service, which will be the exact 100 year of the anniversary that we are celebrating. And it will take place at St. Cyprian Cathedral, where we will be honored to hear from His Excellency, the President of Seychelles, who will also double up as the preacher. So don't miss that. So thank you all for making the day and for coming to join us, and wish you all safe travels back home. And we wish our King many, many years of unbearable, amazing wisdom and resourcefulness. Long live the King. Thank you.
Many thanks to you, Otumfour Siahene, Chairman of the Otumfour Seychelles II Foundation, Oheniba Wachi Eji Wahine II. At the end of this event, that's after the prayer, Your Majesty, respectfully, I shall invite you together with the official party for 3 sets of photographs. I hope that's agreeable. And so today, God Almighty, Otredia Ponyakopong, and the whole world call on us to answer one important question. What are you willing to sacrifice for Asante-Man? For our father, Nana Atiman Brembe, it was his life, his freedom, his everything. May we respond favorably when that call comes, and may we leave a legacy as enduring as his. To you, our father, Nana Atiman Brembe I, we say rest in glory, your legacy lives on. To you, Otumfour II, we say long live the King. Agree with me, therefore, as we receive, to close us, the Archbishop Emeritus of the Anglican Church, Most Reverend Professor Daniel Inka Safo.
Please, those of you who can stand, let's stand. Those who can stand, let's stand. Let us unite our hearts in prayer. Almighty and ever-living God, Creator of the nations of the world, we give you all the glory that you created Asante-Man. We thank you for the solid history you've given to us as a people. We thank you for the heritage you have given to us and to the nation Ghana, which we share with the world all over. Thank you for being with us at the beginning of this program, and you have brought us to a safely end. Commit all ourselves into your care as we leave this place. We know we can't leave your presence. Go along with us wherever you brought us from. These and many other blessings we ask for ourselves through the might of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen. The Lord be with you. Depart in peace. To God's gracious mercy and protection do we commit you all. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon you and give you his peace. Now the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be amongst you and remain with you and all your loved ones, here and elsewhere, this day and forevermore. Amen. Amen. Please, you can sit now.
Humbly, I invite Otumfour, in the company of the Princess Consort, Your Excellencies, the President and the First Lady of Seychelles, please proceed for the first photograph. We shall all remain seated. The first photo is with Otumfour, Royal Highness Lady Julia, and their Excellencies, the President and the First Lady of Seychelles alone. For the second photo, I shall invite His Excellency President John Kuffour, the Regional Minister, Her Excellency Harriet Thompson, and the Chair of the Planning Committee, Nananom.
Right, I was off for yes, I tell you about the Sabre a symposium. Yeah, and I'm here for the 100 years anniversary of the return of King Kuffour the First from exile in Seychelles. Symposium, no, upon the year, and Sabre, you and Nananom, yeah, a Bible for my very first Seychelles, and I'm buying a Cambo, a church of the Iron Coyote. At the Amana Day, and and as I will say, I don't know how to go home. Now, if we channel and correct, you're not to Kaka. Now, you're not to Kaka, now, we'll talk to myself. And that's only now, and so catch a crowd. I will do for so to the second Jubilee Hall. We are all mentioned to the Asante Maibo. Nanom, a mine, a mine, Nanom, a for any a break for him for Yahoo, Becca, you're around. And you are there now, and yes, I said the better than now. I ever said, Yapa, when I don't be a trick of your car, and so now, yeah, of course, yes, yeah, the second the press, but no one for the my son, I say, so the army as you say. And also to go and I did on the yeah, I did it right now. I didn't know I was afraid to us now, Yakabia, your fire and so more. Ken Kuffour the First, return 100 years. I did. Now, I was saying him, I did you. You're better than that, like a second car. Now, yet you did an they really Yakabia, yeah, so I'm on what did you want. The men are not you need to walk. Nana, young brother, I don't want them on Bible. You the see. Yes. Another day, Nananom Cabo, Centenary player with the guy. Official is a buyer, Fishawa, and 1 year, yeah, Kayora, official, and you know. Another the Akoso, the X-ray Akoso, and more addition, Centenary player with the guy, and what's someone for you for a catch? What are my dear now, California? Yedicano, Mechiam, Motifo, Namity Akasia, Pajama, Mamma Mura. I said to a baby or maybe so. On and never me who they win in a Siakasi can and not prepare the first as someone. I dear bet she is as a name of a blue now. Sorry, when you tell in Yansa, no one is also will be a no one in Yansa. It's already and then yet we are here. That's in one of us and baby. It's a Yansa no Nimutino. Now, Pacific Piano, when you are from the Kanakama.
nanso no ɔmfa tumi no ɛnhyɛ wɔn nsam nti ɔno ɔmo kan no mmerakwan mu ɛne ne nyansa ne ne nimdeɛ mu sɛdeɛ ɛbɛyɛ a ɔnnane asante ɛmfa nhyɛ aborɔfo nsa
na siom ɛkɔ so deɛ dodoɔ no ɛka ɛwusafo egu so a yɛ nana bosan hema ɛna ɛtwetwe nkɔmɔ ɛwɔ Otumfour City the second Jubilee Hall na siom yɛ na ɛkɔ so yi deɛ wɔn yɛ nimdeɛ kan nyinaa ne sɛ Centenary pɛmpɛ ɔde ne ho bɔ afɔdeɛ maa ne man ɛno nti ɛna ɔka kyerɛ abɔfo sɛ nea momfa me bom na meme man ɛntena hɔ asanteman ma yɛ a yɛba yɛne yɛaka wɔ akyire deɛ Centenary yɛ ebi esuahunu bi afutuo ɛna ade ma yɛ mmeranteɛ de ma baawa a yɛbɛn
ɛna meka ne sɛ ne nyansɛm ne ne nimdeɛ mu no wɔn mpɛ sɛ aborɔfo de ntokwa bɛsan abɛsɛe n'agyapadeɛ ɛne deɛ wahyehyɛ no ɛno nti na ɔde ne ho bɔ afɔreɛ ɛma wɔn sɛ yɛmfa ne nkɔ no eti sɛ ɔwɔ deɛ ɔyɛ yɛ a ɛno kyerɛ akokoduro ɛne ne nyansa ɛne ne nimdeɛ ano ɔwɔ ɛne ɔdɔ ano ɔwɔ ma asanteman ti na saa dwumadie ɛkɔɔ so.
na yɛ mmeranteɛ de ma baawa a yɛba deɛ esuahunu.
deɛ mɛtumi aka akyerɛ ni asɛ sɛdeɛ ewura Canada no yɛma yɛ asante sɛm hia yɛn yɛma yɛ asante sɛm hia yɛn sɛ ɔkasa ɔyɛ asante ni ɛni sɛ ɔfɛle ho ɛsɛ na wɔtan ɛne anibere bi a nipa no bi ahyehyɛ a wɔn de tan asantefoɔ ti no ɛbrɛ ne abere nyinaa obi kasa ɔyɛ asante ni kura na ɔfɛre na me nana osu ampere mu asi fim akonnwa ho adeɛ wohyɛ yɛ ma ewiase baabi a mepɛ sɛ obi ahu sɛ meyɛ asante ni ba na ma asante sɛm so hia me.
yɛda ase awie yɛ kuro wɔ bi a pɛ sɛ ɔkyea na afan da
yɛ mɛkyia Hamburg foɔ mma nyinaa ɛne me kunu Nana Fredi Agyeman ɛwɔ Hamburg ɛne me nuanom maame nyaako Akra Evelyn ɛne m'abusua Christopher abusuafoɔ Amabonsu ne ne mma Nana Amabonsu ɛne me nafofoɔ ɛwɔ ɛne Progressive UK Progressive Ghana ɛne Asantema Europe mekyia wɔn nyinaa Asantema ma nyinaa ne America yɛbɛsɛ Chicago ladies a wɔn wɔ Hamburg wɔn sɛ mekyia wɔn paa yɛda so mesi me da mo ase
ana bohyɛ hema ɛyɛ akasa deɛ yɛbɛto ɔsena afɔ bi aka bi a yɛde asom na bia nso bi yɛmpie kɔ no mu yɛde anam aka right abusuafoɔ ti sábà dwumadie na ba wie yɛ sɛdeɛ medical aka de akyerɛ yɛ asesi a nananom dodoɔ no a ɛna yɛn sɛ wɔn ɛwɔ ha na nananom di ɔho nkɔmɔ ɛna deɛ kɔɔ so na egu so ayɛ asabere yɛn nananom ɛkasa na yɛatwitwi nkɔmɔ na yɛsua adeɛ ɛnɛ futuo yi a nananom de ma yɛ mmeranteɛ no ma ba wa yɛ a yɛba na yɛbɛgu ha ebi wɔ sɛ medical aka kyerɛ edu hɔ a yɛto ɛmu ase yɛatwitwi nkɔmɔ. Ti abusuafoɔ dwumadie no nyinaa aba na wie sɛdeɛ mehyɛ aseɛ na meka kyerɛ no na saa bere wɔ mu deɛ ɛyɛ nkɔmmɔtwetwe ɛne ɛne yɛ nananom ɛba a yɛn nyinaa bɛtwe nkɔmmɔ na ɛnɛ deɛ ɛkɔɔ so no ebusua ho no ɛne emu afutuo sɛnea ɛda ɔyɛ ne daa no ɔde ama yɛn nkyirima yɛ a yɛaka na kae sɛ sɛdeɛ nananom kae no nyame yɛ adom a ɔkyena nso dwumadie no bɛtoa so ɛwɔ manhyia fi kɛseɛ mu a nananom bɛbɔ dwa sɛdeɛ wɔde kan aka ansa na kwasi ada wakɔ akɔda nyame ase yɛmma ha ne yɛhwɛ sɛ ebenya nananom bi ne yɛne wɔn akasa na yɛtie deɛ nananom ɛka ɛde afa ne dan ho a ɛno korɛ yɛ nana wɔ ha yɛmma nana na ni die mu ai na nankasa kakra na nanka bibi kakra nche ahwefo na bibi anwie ansa na yato aso na de aka bia ye de asomo se de sitie ye na wa ha ni die mu ye ma na akwa ba na yankwada
that's ebru
apomboko de
erade adomboko
ye de nyame ase na eden so jade yankwa che asanteman enti asai bi hia mu bi dan wo di cha ahwefo e
Midin de Nana Amapoke Otumfour ho bra for mama so data no. Na emikru.
And then you were there, of course. Oh, something from prayer, the kind. Yeah, I found it by fish. Our home, you know.
Oh, me da si de din kai ra. Nkwaso mbom ase ma. Ra. Ayase da. Ade we kra de e bi nsi da na so bi esi ne. Na wo se nko bi apa ni no behwe bi. Si ekofa e ra free Seychelles. E ba e na se nko bi apa ni. Eyen senkyerene e na yema chima kra ba kra na obi anim hu de kwa e fa so a saa de we course so. E kina wo se nka nipa nyinara eba na nkom de omani e behwe bi. E ya de hia